Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Wander and Prepare. Today I have something really cool to show you, and that is from one of my favorite companies, TKell. This is the new TKell Scout. So here it is. So kind of unique. So TKell, up until this point, I don't believe has done a sheep's foot blade, which is one of my favorite blades. So take a look here. So this is it. So this has a battle lock grip on it, and this is also my first time ever holding the battle lock grip too. And man, that thing is kind of like, it's almost like sandpaper, like not in a negative way, but like, man, like this will not slip in your hands whatsoever. But sheep's foot blade has a new steel too. So this is actually CTS XHP. So pretty strong steel, and haven't had a lot of experience with it, had zero experience with it actually. So we're going to check it out and see how it does. So let's first talk about the knife. And if you are not familiar with TKell, just a couple of things about it. So I tied the lanyard on there, but he does a nickel boron treatment on his blade. And one of the things that does is that makes his blades extremely strong and considerably tougher than just the bare steel itself. The second thing he does is on this little edge right here, he does something called step milling. And let's see if you can actually get a picture of that. And basically what that step milling does is it reduces drag when you're cutting something, but it also just looks really cool. But for me, I think I've said a few times on the channel, the sheep's foot blade is kind of that all-around utilitarian blade that I think is just about perfect for everything. So basically, he's give us a 4-fingered knife that's just absolutely, I mean, fits like a glove in the hand, and just absolutely an incredible knife. But as I always say on the channel, doesn't matter how pretty the knife is, it matters how it cuts. So let's take a look at that. All right, so let's go ahead and well, let's talk about it just a little bit more, because one of the things I want to talk about with TKell, so his knives are really unique. And what I mean by that is, first off, they're all American made, so everything about it super good quality, made by two awesome people down in Georgia. But his knives are some of the best feeling knives out there, and I've said this about a couple of his other knives, they feel heavy in the hand, and that's not like a negative way, it's like in a premium way. It's not heavy at all, but like it feels substantial when you're holding it, which is just one of the many things I like about TKell. But let's get it on the table, let's see how it actually cuts. So let's start out with some paper. It is a little wet out here today, so you're gonna have to bear with me. Some of my medium may be just a little bit wet, but let's see how it shreds some paper. I mean, not even putting any effort in that, and I don't think there's any question that it is sharp. So let's see how that lends itself to other tasks too. So one of the reasons why I like a sheep's foot blade is it is just that all-around utilitarian blade that's just good at cutting everything. In particular, when I put my hands down on the table, right there is where that blade is touching. So I got use of most of the blade. Now some sheep's foot blades will let me get all the way back to the back part of that one. This one's not like that a little bit because of its compactness, but still lets me get the majority of the use of that blade. The second thing I really like about a sheep's foot is how this point is always pointing down. So think about what we do with most of our knives. Open Amazon boxes, right? So that point is already down, and I don't have to hold it like almost straight up to use that point. I have a very easy way that I can use the point of that knife. And then the other thing, it's just kind of meant for any kind of cut that you're doing. So let's go ahead and see how it does on the cardboard. So makes easy work of that. Oh, like really easy work. Like that's very impressive actually. So like that's just fun. I know that sounds weird when I cut something to say that it's fun, but when you cut as many things as I do on this table, it is really interesting when you cut something and like it feels different. So you just kind of get a little bit of exciting about that. So absolutely no trouble whatsoever with some cardboard. All right, so let's do just a few more things. By the way, it comes with a Kydex sheath, and it's a pancake style sheath. I really like taco style sheaths better, but Tim makes some of the best Kydex in the business. So just to show you kind of the retention on this, I'm just going to push right here. He's got a natural ramp built in there, and watch how that thing flies off. Like, I'm telling you, Tim, great job. Some of the best Kydex I think I've ever seen on any knife out there. All right, so let's step it up to the Titan Survivor cord. So let's talk about it a little bit. So I know you've seen it, but this has a little metal snare in there, and that's what makes this really hard to cut. It has quite a few other things, so if you never looked it up, Titan Survivor cord. So we're first going to cut it this way. Most knives get through it pretty easily. This one, no exception, although I will say I did feel that wire in there. That was kind of interesting. But all right, let's put it on the table and see how it does when I go through this way. I mean, no trouble whatsoever there. All right, hung up a little bit. That's actually just on the little fiber of the cord. So went through that with absolute ease. All right, so now let's take a look at the plastic clothesline. So this is not the clothesline that has metal in it. It just has little plastic fibers in there, but still pretty rough on a knife, pretty hard to cut. So let's see how it does. I mean, very easy. I mean, I could just do that all day long. So, no trouble whatsoever with the clothesline. All right, let's take some just standard, this is not climbing rope, this is just some really cheap polypropylene rope. So let's see how it cuts through that. I mean, like it's butter. Literally just goes right through it with ease. So that's the other thing that about a sheep's foot blade that I really like, because it's got that belly. So easy just to kind of do a roll cut, and I mean, just goes through things with absolute ease. All right, let's step it up just a little bit. So here is a jute twine. Now jute twine, this is pretty thick, sometimes hard to get through. Most knives get through it pretty easily. Oddly enough, this is not like all that heavy duty, so this is about 400-pound test strength. So we'll see how it does getting through that. So you have to roll this just a little bit because of the size of it, but super clean cut with that. All right, now I've told you about this rope a few times. So this is a super heavy duty polypropylene rope from Tractor Supply. And I think this one, it's a little over 1,000 pounds rated, but when I went to Tractor Supply to buy this, they actually had to use a chain cutter to cut this. No knife that they had, or that I have for the matter at the time, could cut it. So let's see how it does. So the blade shape is really helping out with this one. Now, it's hard to get a super clean cut on that, but other than pulling just a couple fibers loose, that is quite a clean cut. Only thing I hate about this rope, man, it makes your knife dirty, and I just absolutely hate that, so I always have to wipe it off after that one. All right, what do we want to cut next? Let's take the toe strap. So this is a 24,000 pound toe strap, and we're first going to try to cut it this way, which almost every knife does with relative ease. Now, one thing I will notice, if you see me, it looks like I'm struggling here. It is not because of the sharpness of the knife. I'm just struggling to get my pinky on the knife with the way I'm having to cut this, just because this is a little bit smaller of a knife, but goes through it relative ease. Now let's put it on the table. This is the cut where almost all knives struggle quite a bit. Let's see how it does. Absolute ease. Alright, so the toe strap wasn't any problem for it. So now let's take a reinforced radiator hose. So let's see if you can see. It is reinforced. You can see that there a little bit. And then on the side of it, you can see that reinforcement in there. That's not metal reinforcement. It's some kind of, not twine, but some kind of plastic reinforcement, but makes it pretty hard to cut nonetheless. At least it does with most knives. All right, let's put it up on its edge and see how it does there. I mean, super easy. I gotta cut it this way one more time. That was just fun. I mean, that is super fun. All right, no trouble with that. All right, so let's take some zip ties, see how it does. So, very common thing that you're going to use a knife for. So this is a very light duty zip tie, and absolutely no problem whatsoever. No problem. Step it up a little bit, still fairly light duty, just a little bit bigger though. All right, a little bit more force to get through it. No problem whatsoever cutting through that though. All right, let's step it up. We're getting up now, a little above 100 pounds. No problem whatsoever. Super easy. All right, that's the same one. All right, this one a little bigger, about the same strength. I mean, absolute ease. All right, now let's get into the big boys. So this one is about a 300-pound strength zip tie. So it is reinforced on both sides. So let's see how it does getting through it. Pretty thick. Oh, that was probably me, not the knife. But there you go. Let's see how it does on the table. This one's thick, so obviously you got to put a little pressure on there, but it goes through it relative ease. And then the absolute strongest zip tie I have, just over 400 pounds. And let's see how hard it is to get through that. All right, took me 2 times to get through it, but that's because of the strength of it, not necessarily the sharpness of the knife. Let's see how it does. Trying to cut through it that way. And that's going to be a hard one, I think, just to get my hands on it in a good way. Oh, there it goes though. Very nice. All right, so the other thing I really like about a sheep's foot blade is obviously I'm an outdoorsman. Now this is not a outdoor knife meant to be a bushcraft knife. So Tim does not believe in sharpened spines, so this is rounded up here, so there's no way this will strike a ferro rod. But the sheep's foot blade is absolutely perfect around camp at doing vegetables and slicing things up. And I mean, it's just kind of shaped like a chef's knife and just does such a good job at any kind of cutting task like that. And by the way, shout out to my wife. These are cucumbers, fresh cucumbers from our garden. All right. So continuing that theme with the vegetables, let's see how it does on a tomato. So let's first cut like a little edge of it off here. Super easy. Absolute easy. And those of you that know, sometimes cutting a tomato is kind of hard, and it slices through that with absolute ease. So even though it is not a bushcraft knife, I just want to demonstrate, while I wouldn't use this for batoning or anything like that, it is a very capable knife. So let's just see how it does. See if I can get some little bit, oh my goodness, look at that. Get some little bitty feathers going here for a feather stick. Alright, don't judge my feather sticking skills. I'm actually really terrible at it. As you see, they all kind of just fall off. But no issue whatsoever doing any kind of fine woodworking task like that. It will absolutely work to the best of your skills. I say it that way because, again, I'm not the greatest. But I mean, that's some pretty decent feathers right there for pretty easy work. All right, so let's just take a look at that edge just so you see absolutely nothing has happened to the edge. It's still in good shape. So for me, when I think about this knife, it might actually be the quintessential perfect EDC pocket fixed blade for me. It's the right blade shape, it's the right size. Now, the one thing, I guess if it was any kind of negative I would have about it, while Tim does make some absolutely astonishing kydex, this is not how I would prefer to carry this. So he actually has it with the little Scout carry option on there, and great way to carry a knife. But man, with this perfect size knife, this just screams to be a pocket carry. So I would actually swap this out if this was my personal knife, and I would get a leather deep carry sheath with either a some kind of clip on it, ulti clip or something like that, so I can carry that in the pocket. And I think that would honestly be about the best EDC pocket fixed blade that I could have. So check them out if you haven't checked out the TKell Scout. Really cool knife, probably the perfect full grip knife, but super small, super compact, can fit in the pocket really easy, but might be the absolute perfect EDC fixed blade. So just remember, guys, as we're out there wandering and preparing, let's make sure we do so by faith and not by sight. I haven't asked this in a long time, but if you enjoy watching this content, I'd love for you to go ahead and give me a like and go ahead and subscribe to my channel. That'd really help me out. Other than that, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much.